Hello and welcome. I'm Stacey, your Disney hotel lady. Today we have Jeremy from Main Street Magic with us to discuss Disney World and his experience over there on the East Coast with the hotels and the whole Disney World experience. Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me and congratulations on this. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, can you tell us a little bit about like your background with Disney? What brings you to Disney every year or more often than that, I'm guessing?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we are frequent Disney visitors. My wife and I, it was with our whole family and our girls when they were a little bit younger. They're both teenagers now. We kind of burnt them out from Disney, so they don't come as often. But we became annual pass holders here at Walt Disney World about 9 years ago. And we live 2 hours northeast in St. Augustine, Florida. So we're pretty much 2 hours door to door. And since we became annual pass holders, that was December of 2015. We've visited every single month and sometimes more. It's just something we try to get down there all the time, and we're there usually 2 to 3 times a month. So after doing that for a little bit, all our family and friends would start asking, we're going to Disney World. What do you recommend? Do we see that you go a lot? Where do we stay? All the stuff. And so we decided to start a podcast. I'd been producing podcasts for like a decade for my brother, and had a lot of knowledge about it. And so I was like, you know what? I know how to do it. Uh, let's just get in front of the microphone and do it. If it turns into something, that's pretty cool. If it doesn't, then we just talked about our favorite thing in the world. So we've been doing that for 7 years now, and over 700 episodes, my wife and I. So we are
Wow.
there a lot, and we just try to spread the Disney magic and love, and give advice and tips and tricks and anything we can do to help folks that are visiting have a better vacation, save money, and hopefully come back saying, wow, that was the best vacation we've ever had. So that's kind of our goal with the whole thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great to do something you have a big interest, love, passion for. And the name of the podcast
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Main Street Magic, correct?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. It was just something we came up with at the start. I don't even remember where it came from. Funny enough, we were supposed to be making magical memories, and it was like such a tongue twister that it didn't work. And so I'd registered everything under that. And then after like a week or two of starting to set stuff up, I was like, this is not going to work. And just, yeah, kind of Main Street Magic came out of nowhere.
Cool. Well, sometimes unexpected surprises work out the best, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so lately it's usually you and your wife then at Disney. Are you staying much in the hotels these days then since you're kind of local?
Yeah, so we actually stay overnight almost every single time that we visit. And there's a couple reasons. One, to be honest, we're just not big fans of driving 4 hours round trip to, maybe spend 8 hours in a park. So we don't like driving
Yeah.
down and back in the same day. So a lot of times we'll stay at least one night. Sometimes, like most recently now here in November and December, you've got like we had the Halloween party, we've got Jollywood Nights and the Christmas party and all. So those being late night events that we'll attend, it's important for us to stay on property and not even attempt to drive home 2 hours at midnight or 1 in the morning or something. So I would say
Yeah.
usually though about 80% of the time we stay on a Disney owned resort property, and maybe the other 20% of the time we'll stay somewhere nearby off property or somewhere like Disney Springs.
Okay. Okay. Great. So you've covered a lot of hotels, I'm imagining. So you're perfect for our interview here. But let's
I
start
hope so.
off. Let's start off first for you mentioned earlier the first time visitors. So let's thinking about a first time visitor specifically, what hotel would you recommend for that person or family that's coming for their very first Disney World trip and why?
So well, so this is such an interesting one because I think everything truly starts with your budget. I don't, there's a lot of folks that, we're very, very fortunate. We get to go to Disney a lot and we work regular jobs to afford that, so that we can go so often. But we understand that there's a lot of people that go once a year, once every 5 years, once in a lifetime. And so when they're first time coming, I do think that budget is very important because sometimes they're already stretching themselves just to save up for that trip. So I think it's real easy for someone to say, well, you got to stay in a deluxe Disney resort. It's just the absolute best. But that might not fit their budget. Or what they may decide is that we could stay 2 nights in a deluxe, or we could stay like a week in a value, or even longer, maybe off property. So I think starting with budget, of course, is the most important thing, is how much can we spend on the hotel portion only. From there, you're probably going to figure out, are you staying on Disney property or off? If you're staying on Disney property, the value resorts, of course, at that lower level, that entry level, we absolutely love Pop Century. The All-Star resorts, which you got 3 of them over there, music, movies, and sports, right there near Animal Kingdom. They're wonderful, and we love those. We tend to stay there the most simply because they are the most affordable and we come so often. But
Okay.
Pop Century, for the values, they've got fairly newly refurbished rooms. It's got a great setup. They've got the Skyliner, which is the absolute game changer for
Yeah.
Disney World when you're looking at a resort. If you move into the moderate level, we really, really love Coronado Springs. It's probably one of our favorite resorts simply because there's so much to do there. However, it can be hard to get to and from. So in that type of instance, you probably want to look at something like Caribbean Beach, where you can, again, access the Skyliner and you're going to be able to get the most use out of your time by your kind of proximity, to the different parks and other areas and resorts that you want to get to. And then if you're going to move to
Okay.
deluxe and that is within in your budget, I think for us, the Polynesian is just a spot that you're never going to forget. I mean, it is
Okay.
incredible there, especially if you are coming, in the summertime. Like, it truly feels like being in Hawaii or the Polynesian. You're right there on the monorail loop. So you got quick access to Magic Kingdom. You're a short monorail to Epcot. It's just beautiful. And then if it's in the wintertime, we really like Wilderness Lodge just for the feel and the Christmas decor that's all throughout that lobby. So I think at
Okay.
each of those levels is those are the hotels that we would definitely recommend. And then if you're looking at off property, there's an area called Flamingo Crossing that is just off of Western Way. It's basically right behind Coronado Springs Resort. It's probably a mile and a half from the entrance to Disney. And there are at least half a dozen different hotels over there, from, I think, Marriott's to Hilton's, and those types of
Mhm.
things. Plus, there's a whole bunch of restaurants over there now. It is building. There's some Disney College program housing in that area. So it's just like an up and coming, awesome area that is as close to property as you can pretty much get without actually being owned by Disney.
Yeah, I haven't stayed in that Flamingo Crossing area yet, but I've been able to like drive through and by and kind of research some of those hotels, and I'm very excited to one day make some of those hotels a stay. But yeah, fortunately for me, I've only stayed between DVC and our once in a lifetime trip when we went to Disney World. We only stayed at deluxe level hotels in Disney World so far. So I I look forward to staying at like the moderates or Pop Century. I hear nothing but good things about Pop Century. So looking forward to staying there as well.
Yeah, and I think too, it is one of those instances where if you are doing your budget, and this might be a once every 5 years or kind of a once in a lifetime, I know that it could be really, really hard to say we're going to go in like 2026 and then think of going later. But if it is that once in a lifetime trip, I would highly look at what it would take to save and afford a deluxe level resort at Disney. And if that means you go in 2027 or 2028, like, that stinks. But I do think you are going to get so much more out of that trip if you're able to do that. If you're not, and you got to stay at a value or off property, that's okay too. But there is nothing like the deluxe resorts, and sometimes it's hard to go backwards. So if you
Yeah.
think like you are going to go every year, it can be hard to start at a deluxe and then realize maybe the next year you've got to go to a value due to budget restraints. So it is something to think about. It is a lot easier to stay at a value and work your way up. that it is to start at that deluxe and have to work your way down. It's still going to be magical. It's still going to be incredible. It's just going to not be quite the same as staying in that deluxe resort, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so next then, you mentioned several that are your favorites, but this is the question I dread and I hate, but I'm gonna ask you anyway because it's the biggest question I think people have. What is the best Disney hotel?
Man, it's such a hard question because I want to give so many answers with like variables, but I won't. Um, I
How
will say
about
probably after your
let's break it down to best on property and best off property.
perfect. I would say on property you cannot beat the Polynesian. It's got everything. There's just something about walking into that lobby that is like nothing else. And when you have an opportunity to be not only, transported to an incredible place like Walt Disney World, but then be in this Hawaiian and Polynesian themed, resort, it's just absolutely incredible. The pool and all is amazing there. They've got, wonderful dining. Trader Sam's, if you have the opportunity to go to Trader Sam's Grotto, which our version is a little bit different out here on the East Coast, I know, than the West Coast, but still wonderful. The proximity, the location to everything is so, so good. So we have in the past year, we've been lucky enough to have stayed there once or twice this past year. We're actually checking in on Thursday this week to the Poly for
Oh,
two
hey,
nights, and it just
cool.
can't be beat. For off property, I'll probably talk about this Flamingo Crossing area a few times throughout this because it's just such a wonderful area. It's very affordable hotels, and the great part about them is, when you start looking, if we go back to those first time visitors, another big thing is what's the size of your family. It's for us, we were always a family of four, with our two girls, and so like we were the family that fit in every single hotel, because most hotels are made for four people. When you start looking at going above five people, definitely your options at Disney go way down unless your budget goes way, way up. That's where somewhere like Flamingo Crossing really comes into play. They have everything from, a lot of their standard rooms will sleep 4 to 6. They often have some one bedroom options. I know like the Town Place Suites over there has up to a 2 bedroom option with 2 baths. They all have
Nice.
some form of like kitchen, whether it's a kitchenette with like a microwave and fridge, all the way up to full kitchens in some of these, and everything in between. You know, that's another thing when you've got this larger family. Not only do you need the space, but sometimes you can't budget and afford to eat every single meal out. So if you have an opportunity to do something like,
Yeah.
have breakfast and cook in your room every morning,
Yeah.
like we personally think breakfast is a huge place to save money at Disney World, unless you're doing something special like a character dining. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
dining package, something like the Candlelight Processional now. But otherwise, a lot of the breakfasts across property are pretty standard. If you're walking down to your hotel every morning at Disney and buying, food for a family of four at the food court, you're going to just spend up your food budget real quick. So not only does Flamingo Crossing give you a kitchen, so you could do stuff like prepare breakfast, lunch, dinner if you wanted, they also come with actual free breakfast every morning. And this isn't like your, Holiday Inn Express continental breakfast with some bagels and old toast and juice or something. These are legit breakfasts. Most of them have
Mhm.
Mickey waffles that you make fresh yourself. Some of them have breakfast bowls and omelets. I mean, it's legit breakfast that can save you a ridiculous amount of money. And if you get very specific, Town Place Suites is probably our favorite hotel in the Flamingo Crossing area as far as off property goes.
Okay. Yeah, especially if you have boys. Oh my goodness, growing boys can eat a big breakfast.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the thing is too, I talk about us being a family of four, but even when we do travel with our girls now who are 14, 16, don't particularly like each other at this time in their life, they don't want to share a bed. So even if we
Yeah.
do travel, we either have to look for something that can technically sleep a fifth or sixth person because we need that other bed for them in, or we got to make sure that they're at least queen beds and we can put some sort of divider of pillows between the two of them so they don't get like in a fist fight at 2 in the morning. But, a lot of those things matter. And it's some of the stuff,
Yeah.
as silly as it sounds, some people don't think of something like that. If we were going to go with our girls somewhere for 1 or 2 nights right now, we're probably going to cram them into a regular 4-person room. They're going to share a bed. They're going to get over it. But if we were to go somewhere for like a week, that's
Hmm.
probably not going to fly. And there's going to be a
Yeah,
lot of art and stuff. So that's where we might look at going somewhere that has some larger options. And then each girl gets their own bed.
for sure. Yeah, great tip. Yeah, think about that. Your size of your family and the space you need, like
Yeah.
maybe on paper you fit in that space, but how long are you going? What's the relationship like between the siblings? Like all of that adds up to how well your vacation will go.
Oh yeah, and bathrooms, of course, are a huge thing. With
Yes.
3 other, females in my family between my wife and my 2 teenage girls. Example in a place like Art of Animation, which is considered a value resort, but it has the moderate to deluxe price family suites over there. Those each come with 2 bathrooms. They come with 3 queen size beds. So something like that for our family is perfect. Everybody can get ready when they need to. There's not 4 of us all fighting for one bathroom. So that's something else that often you want to look at. And when you do get to some of those DVC deluxe resorts and you have those
Yeah.
options for like 1 bedrooms and above, that's where sometimes, your budget and your money can really go far, because it's not just about like getting to Disney World on a price. It's about making the most of it while you're there and having the best time possible. And if you're spending the whole week, again, fighting with each other on who sleeps where and who's getting ready and who takes showers or whatever, like, it's just
Yeah.
so much easier if you've got that space for everybody involved.
Yeah. Too true. Too true. Yeah. And again, I said it in the other interview with Casey Woolley, but DVC, you don't have to be a member to rent those accommodations. You can get them through Disney or a DVC rental site. You just search that on Google, and
Yeah.
that can really save you some money because you get that washer and dryer and the kitchen in those 1 bedrooms and above. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Huge. Yeah, and as you just mentioned with the washer and dryer, especially when you get into those longer trips, and a lot, folks coming overseas, they usually come for like 2 weeks, and to
Yeah.
pack 2 weeks of clothes is almost impossible. So if you're able to watch
Yeah.
stuff, and that's where those DVC units come in handy, and you really do want to look at those. And you can pay cash for those
Yeah.
rooms without going through a DVC rental, but they're so much more
Hmm.
expensive.
Yeah.
So looking into some DVC rental options can definitely, sometimes it can get you into a deluxe resort for moderate pricing.
Yeah. Big savings in
Yeah.
your actual dollar and your like space value, like how much you're
Yeah. Yeah.
getting.
And your insanity
Yeah. Sanity,
definitely
insanity.
saves some there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, do you have any hidden gems as far as the budget goes? Any hidden gem hotel that maybe someone wouldn't come to mind, someone wouldn't think of right away that could save you some big money for a Disney World vacation?
I mean, I do think that the All Star, as far as Disney owned, the All Stars do sometimes get overlooked. They can tend those sometimes Pop Century as well. They tend to be where the groups stay, especially when it comes to the local sporting events, football, cheerleading, dance, things like that. At Wide World of Sports, which is kind of right down the street. So you do want to be a little bit wary of when you're going, and you can look at schedules for when those things are coming to town, because they will fill up. But right now is like Florida resident or an annual pass holder, or even some of the out of state, winter and fall, or winter and coming up into the spring deals and stuff. You can get those under $200 a night, and you're on Disney property. You're in the Disney bubble. You're taking advantage of all the amenities and perks that it has to offer. Of course, Flamingo Crossing is wonderful off property, but there's another little area that is pretty much on the other side of I-4, across from the Disney Springs area. So you would either want a rental car or have your own vehicle, most likely, or you're going to need to budget for like a Lyft or Uber or something like that. But it's called Marriott Village, and there's 3 different Marriott hotels that are there. There's a Courtyard, I think there's like a Fairfield, and there's a third one I can't remember off the top of my head, but really well priced. I am 99% sure they have no parking and no resort fees. All 3, I believe, come with some form of breakfast. They are right near one of the outlets in Orlando that includes a Disney character warehouse. And this is a big tip for first time visitors. Don't get there and wait to buy all your Disney stuff. You're going to get
Yeah.
there and you're going to find things that you want to buy at Disney, and your kids obviously are going to want stuff. If you can set a budget for that, it's very helpful. Like we used to do with the girls is, we'd be going for a weekend and we would literally be like, here's a $50 gift card. This is kind of what you have maybe for 2 days to buy some memorabilia or merchandise. And when it's
Uh-huh.
gone, it's gone. And that usually helps. But if you're near that character outlet and just say you're coming in and you're not doing parks that first day, go to the character outlet. You can look there. You can stock up on a lot of Disney stuff. It was available in the parks a few months earlier. It's all at very reduced rates. We stop there at least once a month and pick up stuff. And another thing you can actually do is shop at local places beforehand, like Walmart, Target, Kohl's. They'll often all carry Disney type stuff. You can go on Amazon, order things like autographed books, bubble wands, glow in the dark little things for the kids at night. Because,
Yeah.
when you get to Disney and you got to buy that Mickey bubble wand and it's 25, $30, that's your
Yeah.
quick service dining maybe for that day instead. So some of
Yeah.
those things that just don't feel so unique, like I got to buy it at Disney World, get those ahead of time. You could even almost have a suitcase filled with this type of stuff. And every morning that you wake up, give your kids something new out of the suitcase. I mean, it sounds awful, but they don't know any better. They're kids. They don't know that you bought it
Yeah.
for a third of the price at Kohl's 2 weeks ago. They're just going to be super
Yeah.
excited that every morning, maybe, they've got a new shirt to wear or something with their outfit, or you're giving them some kind of, bubble wand or glow in the dark thing or whatever. So look at those types of things. But we really like the Marriott Village area. They're not quite, I would say, at the level of the Marriott properties that are over at Flamingo Crossing, but they're close enough that they're a great place to save money and lay your head at night, get something to eat in the morning. Because that is the other thing you do want to look at as we talk about all of this. If you're planning on coming down and you're going to rope drop to park close every single day that you're there, you're not worried about taking breaks. Let's just say it's in January and you're not going to swim. You might not want to spend all your budget on a deluxe resort because you're not going to take advantage of everything that it has to offer. That's the time to look
Exactly.
at value and say, I still get all the Disney magic. I still get the perks, but I'm not spending an exorbitant amount just for a place to sleep. Or that's when you really look off property because you can get a whole lot more out of your money and value if you're doing that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have stayed at the Marriott Village, so that's interesting that you noted that. I'll have to compare when I
Yeah.
finally get over to Flamingo Crossing, how that
Yes. I'll
looks.
be excited to hear what you think, because it has a
Okay.
lot of the same feel in a sense. It's neat to have this complex of hotels,
Yeah.
but Flamingo, and it's cool that you have the outlets right there. But when you get over to Flamingo Crossing, like they just opened a Hash House a Go Go. I don't know if you've heard of those, but it's like this crazy brunch spot. I don't know if it started in Vegas, but like I know they've got one out there. Like this place is nuts. They have a miniature
Okay.
Target, which, speaking of places to do some shopping, we stopped in there the other weekend. They have a huge, basically Disney store section within that smaller Target, and we were seeing T-shirts starting at usually about $12.99,
Mhm.
shorts around $13.99. We saw Disney hoodies for like $23.99. So basically, almost
Mhm.
half the price of anything you're going to get actually on property. So I think you'll just
Yeah.
fall in love with the Flamingo Crossing area. There's
Okay.
so much going on over there.
Okay. Yeah, sounds great. It sounds like Disneyland has a Target that's just about a mile away, and they have their own Disney store section. And yeah, the ears are like $13, like you said.
Yeah,
T-shirts $12. It's
yeah,
just fantastic. And it's like, yeah, why would I go to the park and pay 20 when I can get half price at Target
right.
or
Yeah,
wherever?
and it's Disney stuff. Like it's actual
Yeah.
Disney stuff. It's not like some back alley guy who's making them out the back of a van or something. Like and Mickey Mouse has like one ear. Like this is legit Disney stuff that you're getting for a fraction of the cost. Because as soon as you step on Disney property, and it's the same way ever. As soon as you step on Universal
Yeah.
property, as soon as you
Yeah.
step into a stadium for a football, like everything
Yeah.
automatically goes up like 10 or $15, right? The
Yeah.
food, the merchandise, the everything. So any of that money that you can save by just getting it beforehand or off property, just take all that and put it towards other experiences, whether that's a deluxe resort or another night or, special dining or one of these after hour parties. Like, you're going to get a lot more out of that than spending way too much on merchandise. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, we've given a lot of tips so far, but can you, maybe it's something we've already talked about or something new that's come to mind. Can you kind of compare and contrast do's and don'ts? What are we looking at when we're going to Disney World, especially as far as hotels? Do's and
Yeah.
don'ts.
Do use a travel advisor. I am more than happy to recommend some, but I just, regardless of who it is, if it's your next door neighbor who does Disney travel, first of all, make sure that they really do Disney travel. It's just not a hobby. Like, make sure they know what they're doing. But find a reputable travel company and travel advisor, because when you go, and I know it's the same for Disneyland, we are planning to go in April. When you go on like Disney World's website by yourself, especially if just say you're a Florida resident or an annual pass holder, when you're looking at hotels, you can sometimes get anywhere from like 3 to 6 different rates. You're going to have your regular standard rate. You're going to have an AP rate. You're going to have a Florida resident rate. You might have whatever season rate it is. You might have a package rate if you're including tickets. There's all these different things, and a lot of times each of those only has a block. Just because there's an AP rate, it doesn't mean that that's good for every single room on Disney property. No, it means that, first of all, it's tiered, so you will save more when you go to deluxe off, percentage wise. You save less when you go to a value. But basically, like, shoot, I just lost my train of thought there.
Uh-oh.
That does happen sometimes.
Yeah. We're doing do's and don'ts.
Yes, travel advisors. No, definitely use a travel advisor, because what they'll do is they'll be able to take each of those things and they'll figure out what is best for you. Because a lot of times you might get stuck on something like a rack rate and you don't realize that there are other rates available. So definitely do use a travel advisor. I would also, look at the hidden fees when it comes to these off properties. I know we've talked a lot about those, and while your budget for hotel only most likely can still come under staying on Disney property, it might not be what you think. For example, Flamingo Crossing, for years when they started, had no resort fees and no parking fees, which is huge. So basically, the rate that you see is what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
They've just started, some of them, implementing a parking fee. It's about $10 a night, but it's something you want to know. If you're staying for 7 nights, that's 70 extra bucks. And if you're not prepared for it, that could hurt a little. When you go to somewhere like Swan and Dolphin, for example, some of the Disney Springs resorts, they're amazing. Proximity's great. Swan and Dolphin and Swan Reserve over there on the boardwalk area, right by Epcot, they're deluxe level resorts. They are stunning. But they also come with like a $45 resort fee a night. And if you have a vehicle, like a $35 parking fee a night. That's 70, 80 bucks extra a night that you're not seeing when you see that number, or that rate that you're booking at. Now, obviously, all of these hotels disclose that information, but guess what? It's not always easy to see.
Yeah.
If you are, for some reason, doing this on your own, which again, I don't recommend. I recommend using a travel advisor. When you go to those Marriott sites, usually they will have a button that says include additional fees. Make sure you hit that thing, and then you get a real true price of what you're paying. I know the first time we ever stayed at Swan and Dolphin, this is probably like 7 years ago. We weren't smart enough to use a travel advisor at the time. And I booked at Swan and Dolphin. It was like $180 a night. I thought, this is the greatest thing ever. We show up, because I didn't know, and boom, it was like an extra 70 or 80 a night, and we were staying 3 nights. That's huge. So make sure that you understand all those types of things. Kind of a do and a don't, I would say, is do research the Disney's dining plan. They have finally brought back the dining plan. It doesn't mean you need it, though. Automatically, people think, the dining plan, that's great. Because people think of the dining plan as going to an all-inclusive resort in some ways. You pay most everything up front, and then when you show up, you don't have to worry about it. Well, the thing with Disney's dining plan is it does have a fixed cost and amount, so you can kind of see what it's worth and if it's worth it to you. When our whole family of 4 was traveling, our 2 girls almost never ate a meal completely themselves. They always split, right?
Right.
For, my wife and I, we're probably not going to go somewhere and both get an appetizer and both get an entree and both get a dessert. So for us, the
Mm-hmm.
dining plan doesn't make a lot of sense. We're not going to get the full value out of it. But for other people, it makes a ton of sense. You mentioned earlier you got growing boys, teenage boys.
Yeah.
They eat. The dining plan may make sense. Something
Yeah.
else to think about with the dining plan, because this is something that, when you're talking to a travel advisor, you're maybe booking a Disney hotel. You're booking a package because you need tickets. This is something that they're going to discuss with you. Just really take a look at that. It's going to be a true value to you, because we've also had friends that have gotten it and they have stressed so much every day about having to eat all this food and having dining reservations that they felt they couldn't get out of because they lost the money. All of a sudden
Yeah.
you've got a buffet booked on a Tuesday night, and you're just not that hungry. If you
Yeah.
don't go, you waste your money. And if you do go and you don't eat enough, you waste your money. So that is one of the things that I talk to people a lot. One of the other tips, and all of these, I guess, are just do's with research, is at these off properties, go ahead and look at what their transportation offerings are. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them will offer shuttles to the parks. That sounds great.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's not always great. Most of them have very set times in the morning and in the evening. They might have 4 or 5 times in the morning, 4 or 5 times in the evening. Those are the only times you can take the shuttle to and from the hotel. So that becomes very big. If you want to rope
Yeah.
drop, you're probably not going to be able to. And if you want to close to the park, you're not going to be able to with shuttles. Another thing with these shuttles, if you are at, just say, a Disney Springs resort, they're going to be able to drop you off at the individual parks, except for Magic Kingdom. They have to drop you off usually at the Ticket and Transportation Center. Some of those hotels do have a spot in Magic Kingdom, but in instances when you get a little bit further, they got to drop you off at TTC. If you get out to somewhere like Marriott Village, they can only drop you off at TTC, which is the Transportation and Ticketing Center there by Magic Kingdom. So if you're staying at some of these off-property hotels and you're relying on their transportation and you're going to Animal Kingdom, well, they're going to drop you off at the Ticket and Transportation Center. You're then going to have to use that in Disney's internal transportation to get to Animal Kingdom, and you're going to have to do the same thing back. So as
Yeah.
we talk about doing your research and all of that, make sure within your budget you do have something for transportation. If you have to use like an Uber, a Lyft, or if you realize, hey, this shuttle schedule is not going to cut it for our family, now we've got to rent a car. And you might find at that point, I'm off property, but now I got to rent a car. I could just stay at a Disney Value Resort for the same price, and I've got all the transportation right out my front door. So I
Yeah.
think those are the kind of things to do. You do need to make a plan. You can't show up at Disney World and wing it. I don't know if there's a lot of vacation destinations you can anymore, but
Yeah.
you have to have a plan. You have to know, what parks you want to do on what days. You want to have an idea of, what shows you want to see, what rides you want to do. Whenever we would go with new folks like our friends, we would sit down beforehand and basically say, like, what are like the top 5 things you really want to do? What are the top 5 things you really want to do? You, and you try to work those all in,
Mm-hmm.
because it does matter a lot to people, but don't rely 100% on that plan, because I can guarantee you gonna it's gonna go awry at some point. So you have to be able to kind of pivot and adjust and just move on and go to the other thing, go to the next thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I
while I
gave
do
that
think it's neat
exact
to
advice
ask the
today.
people in your party, did you? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's so important. Like, I mean, we've done entire episodes on like what to do when things go wrong, because they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and you can't rely. We always say that you can't rely on a to-do list to make or break your vacation. While you want to sit down with your people and say, what do you want to do? We're going to do everything we can to do these things. If Tron, riding Tron is number one on your to-do list, and for some reason, you can't get the lightning lane, the standby is crazy, whatever happens, and you don't get to ride Tron, don't let that ruin your vacation. After that point, it's not Tron's fault if you have a bad vacation. It's your fault. It's the way that you respond and the way that you react to that. So, it's okay to have a do list, it's not okay to determine the success of your vacation on it, we think. So
Yeah. 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 That's good. And yeah, this might all sound overwhelming, but again, remember our first advice on this episode, use a travel agent, especially for Disney World. It's just there's so much. They're going to help you so much you can't even imagine.
yeah, it's not, it's so funny because I live and breathe Disney, like literally. I mean, it's, I have a day job. I mean, I work for myself. I do a lot of work for my brother, who's a keynote speaker. But outside of that, I'm like 100% Disney. I'm on social all day. I'm keeping up with news. I'm interacting. You can see my office behind me.
Yeah.
It's not just this room that's decorated in Disney. It's like our whole house. Our youngest daughter, who's 14, is coming with us in 2 weeks. We haven't taken her to Disney since Christmas of 2022 because she just, again, doesn't have the interest. But I told her we were going in 2 weeks to see Ralph Macchio at Candlelight Processional. She is a huge Cobra Kai fan. She's actually a big fan of The Outsiders. I think he was like 15 or something when he was in that. So she freaked out. She's like, I got to come with you. So I'm like, all right. So we went ahead and we got her a pass hopper day ticket for that Saturday. And we normally don't do Lightning Lane, the multi-pass, or the single pass because we go often enough that if something's too long to ride, we just don't ride it. But I'm going to need to go ahead and get multi-pass and single pass for this trip for our daughter. And I'm going to have to research and talk to some people about it again because it's so confusing and it is very, very hard to navigate. And again, travel advisors, shows like this that you're doing, those help people. So just consume everything you can about it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like a lot. And that's the other thing. I know that a lot of people like to plan their own stuff, and that's great. You can actually do the research on your own, but go to that travel advisor. One, they're going to make sure that your research is correct and you are getting the absolute best deal on what you found. Two, they're going to answer questions and they're going to help guide you. Things like, how do I use Lightning Lane multi-pass? And three, you're supporting a small business. I mean, I don't know what percentage of the travel agencies are small business, but it's got to be like 95% of them that are considered that way. So you are supporting a small business, and honestly, you still get to do your plans. You still get to plan things. It's not like you're just throwing everything to them, showing up and saying, hand me my document for the week and I'm going to follow every direction. No. All they're doing is making sure that you get the best value, that you get the best price, you know everything that you need to know, and they're going to answer all your questions. So it's definitely just a no-brainer to do them, even if you want to do the background research on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Yeah, very true. Okay, so you mentioned your favorites already, hotel-wise, on property, off property. What about you personally, what are the amenities that I know it probably will depend on what type of trip you're taking, as you said, because you've been going for different reasons, doing different things, but generally speaking, if we can generalize, what are the amenities that are important to you in your hotel on your Disney trip?
Comfy bed. And cleanliness obviously are probably one. I mean, I think cleanliness is for everyone. I can say this, staying on Disney property, 99.9%, you get exactly what you expect with the cleanliness of the room, the comfortability of the beds, the pillows, and all that stuff. I will give a word of warning, even though it is Disney, even if you were staying at a 5-star Ritz-Carlton, you do want to check the room for everything. Most notably, things like bed bugs. I don't know how often this brings up. Even Disney World can sometimes have them. So you do want to check those types of things. It's just a word of warning I give. I think it's easy to be like, hey, I'm staying at a roadside motel that I'm stopping off on my way to Disney World. It's cheap. Let me check and make sure that it's clean and there's not bed bugs. You get to a deluxe resort at Disney, you're paying $700 a night. You don't think you should have to worry? Just, I would double check.
Yeah.
So definitely big on our list. I would say the amenities such as like the pool area, especially during the summertime. We live in Florida, so we're not year-round swimmers, but when we go, we want a place with a great pool that's going to have, maybe a hot tub for the evenings. If it's still open when you get back from a park day, going and sitting in that hot tub can be an absolute game changer to you.
Oh yeah.
The restaurant options are big. When you stay at a value, you got a
Okay.
food court. That's it. You move to moderates, you're going to get a food court, and you're usually going to get some sort of sit down restaurant. You might have a bar and grill. And when you move to deluxe, not only are you going to have multiple options for restaurants at the actual resort, but the proximity to things is going to be so much closer. So that's something else that we really look for. And, I still think in all the conversation that's happened, coming out of COVID, so many things changed at Disney World. We lost a lot.
Yeah.
We lost
Yeah.
things like everything from free Magic Bands to free Magic Express. A lot of things got lost. For us personally, and I know this may vary from person to person that you talk to, the one thing Disney did not get rid of was the magic. And the cast members in the service that they provide when you're staying at a Disney property is absolutely unparalleled.
Yes.
We've had wonderful experiences off property. The Flamingo Crossing areas are great. It's not Disney
Hmm.
though. It's not the Disney magic.
Yeah.
When you can step off of a Disney bus and walk through a larger than life lobby, that's adorned in Disney, and cast members you greeting you at the door saying welcome home. Like, I do think there's a value to that. That is
Hmm.
something that can change your vacation. Like I mentioned, we're going to Disneyland for the first time in April, and as I was researching, I knew that a Disney hotel was out of our budget. One of those three, it
Yeah.
wasn't going to work for our first time. So I started looking at the outlying areas, of course, working with my travel advisor, and she sent back several things, and it was like a Marriott, and there was a Hilton, and I was like, man, I can stay at those anywhere. I understand I'll be right near Disneyland, and there's something special about that. But I want the resort to feel special too. So we ended up doing the Candy Cane Inn because it's different. I mean, I figure
Okay.
like at least it's not just the Hilton or Marriott. I can stay at one down the street. So there's something to be said, I think, about that Disney magic, and it's something that we really look for above and beyond when we choose to stay on property. We're lucky enough to, call cast members that we have met staying at resorts. Some of our friends now, like,
Oh.
we've got one friend that we've known for 8, 9 years now. Like, he's watched our girls grow up. Like, we spent Christmas at the resort while he was working 2 years ago and spent a ton of time with him. Like, it's pretty amazing the service that Disney provides when you're staying on property and being in that bubble, um, because something else you have to look at, especially when you have the kids, is that, you want to take some breaks during the day. So
Hmm.
proximity obviously comes, in hand when you're thinking about taking a midday break. Sometimes your kids, they don't want to rest the way that you do, so they want something to do. So when you're staying
Hmm.
like on a Disney property, they're going to have poolside activities all day long. Me and my wife could go and we could sit by the pool and relax and do nothing, while our kids can be entertained and interact with a cast member who's doing all kinds of like trivia and hula hoop contests and music and all kinds of things. So those are the types of things we look for. We look for a place that we would want to stay at, even if we weren't going to the parks, is really what it comes down to.
Million. Yeah, because so many hotels can be so much more than just a place to sleep or change or whatever. Like, there's so many activities and so much detail at, especially in Disney World at the hotels, that yeah, it's a a activity day all in and of itself,
Yeah.
depending on
Yeah. I
where you
mean,
stay.
we always tell people to take rest days, like depending on the length of your trip, we recommend you do 2 on, 1 off. So
Hmm.
if you are going to Disney for a week, like you're checking in on Sunday and just say you're checking out on Saturday, a 4-day park hopper and doing parks Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, is usually pretty good. You've got your travel day on Sunday coming in. You got your parks Monday and Tuesday. You have a full rest day on Wednesday. That's the time that your hotel really comes into play. What are the amenities? What are the things to do? What is your proximity to other Orlando attractions if that's something you decide to do? Some people take a day off for a Disney vacation, not just to rest from Disney, but sometimes they can't afford to go to Disney for that other day. So they take in some of the other things that Orlando has to offer. So, then you hit your parks Thursday, Friday, and you go home Saturday. That Wednesday, that middle of the week that you're at a hotel, possibly all day long, if you're not doing something else, you want to make sure that it's got stuff to do and it's going to keep everybody entertained and happy and all that good stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I agree too about the Disney level of service. I've said it before, I've said it many, many times. That's why you get people that are fans of, say, Disney parks versus Disney movies, because that human factor that Disney provides, that level of service and interaction, and you just don't get that anywhere else these days. And
Yeah.
that carries over into the hotels and the accommodations and everything. So
Yeah.
you are getting something at a different level when you are able to stay. If it's at a value or at a deluxe, you're getting a different level of service than you would outside of that Disney bubble.
Completely. I compare it. We've got Publix around every corner here in Florida, and their customer service for me is on that level in their culture that Disney is. It's a reason. Like, I will, if there's and no offense to Winn-Dixie, they actually have a lot better pricing usually, but if there's a Publix and there's a Winn-Dixie next to each other, personally, I'm going to go into the Publix because I know exactly what I'm going to get every single Publix that I walk into, as far as service, as far as cleanliness, usually a lot of times as far as layout, things like that. And it's the same thing with Disney. If I'm looking at a Disney hotel and I am looking at a cheaper off-property hotel, and I've got the money for that Disney hotel, I'm going to pick it 10 times out of 10 based on
Mm-hmm.
knowing exactly what I'm getting in that level of service that is just absolutely unparalleled, I feel like, to most other places.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, do you have any experiences that were especially memorable because of all that Disney magic, that Disney next level?
Yeah. I mean, I honestly I have a couple. One of the ones, I think one of the stories that my wife and I tell a lot. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago. We had our girls with us. We were staying at All Star Movies. We were staying in the Dalmatian section. Like, I can remember it like it was yesterday, so vividly. And my wife and I, Rhonda, we had gone down to the food court and we grabbed something to eat, probably like chicken tenders and fries. We go back up to the room. I'm a big Duke basketball fan, and it can be hard to catch sporting events on property sometimes. So I think I brought my laptop and I hooked it up to the TV in the room, and I was going to watch the Duke game streaming and all. And we were done eating, and my wife and my two girls were like, "Well, we want to go get something for dessert." I said, "Go ahead, I'll stay in the room." So she comes back. She's got a cupcake. Each of the girls has an ice cream bar. And as she was checking out, Alex, who was the cast member, is the same cast member that my wife and I had encountered about 30 minutes earlier. He was friendly. We said hello. We went on our way. As they're getting ready to check out, my wife Rhonda, is very personable, she just says to the girls, "Hey, it's my best buddy Alex." And just like we just were here, Alex recognized who she was, and he just said, "These are on Mickey." And they walked away. They got their cupcake. They got their ice cream bars, and that was on Alex. That was on Mickey. And it's those little touches. I mentioned our friend before. We went in 2017. We went for spring break, and my parents were going to come down. They live in South Carolina. My brother and his three kids were going to come down. They're up in Maryland. So our family of four. So we had a group of 10, and we were staying at Coronado Springs over in the Ranchos section. This is before Grand Destino Tower has been built and all. And so we were going to be there Monday through Friday. And my wife and I and the family showed up on Monday. My parents, my brother were getting in later that afternoon. And as soon as we got to the hotel, because we're doing 5 days of parks, I looked at my wife and I was like, "We're going to need like a vacation after this vacation, right?" And so we go, "All right, let's go down to the front desk and let's see if we can add Friday night." So we go down and we start talking to the cast member, and she's looking up some stuff, and she's like, "Well, we can't keep you in the same room. We'll have to move you. It's not the same rate. It's gonna be a little bit more." And we're like, "Okay, let us think about it and come back." And as we're kind of chatting with her, it just came about that we do this podcast, and I think at that point we had been coming like 24, 25 months straight, because we were coming every month. We were staying on property every month. So we just happened to mention that. She turns around and says to Aaron, the general experience manager at the time, "Hey, you got to come talk to this family. They've been coming to Disney for over 2 years. They come every month." So we start chatting, and he's like, "Well, let me see what I can do." And he goes in the computer, and he says, "All right, I got you guys. You got Friday night. You can stay in the room, and it's going to be the same price that you were paying." We're like, "That's great." He says, "I see that you're here with like a whole group. Like, these kids, these cousins don't get together a lot." He's like, "All right." So he goes back on the computer, turns around and says, "I've loaded 3." This was the time of fast passes, right? He says, "I've loaded 3 anytime, any attraction fast passes for each of you for each of the days that you'll be here. Sure. That was the time where 60 days ahead, you could book 3 fast passes, which I had already
Mm-hmm.
done. So basically, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, our group of 10 not only had the 3 fast passes that I booked, but 3 additional that we could use anytime, anywhere. And I remember like
Wow.
leaving that vacation, and my family, my brother and my parents, who didn't understand that, you know what I mean? They don't know what fast
Yeah.
passes are. They just saw us walk to the front of every ride. They were blown away. They were just like, I can't even believe what Jeremy did. Like, how did we got to do everything we wanted. And so my wife and I were going back a month later for our anniversary. And on the way, we stopped at Harry and David and got a really nice gift basket. And we went and we visited Aaron and just said, hey, here's a gift basket. We just want to thank you. Like, you made that entire vacation. And yeah, that was like 7 years ago. We're friends to this day. We, see him every time we can go. He's at another Disney resort now, but he was at Coronado for quite some time. Every time we went, we would see him. We'd hang out with him, and it's just one of those things like you wouldn't expect. You wouldn't expect to go on a vacation with your family here at Disney World and end up making like a lifetime friend. Again, like we'll invite him to our
Yeah.
girl's wedding one day. Like, who would think that? So it's just those types of experiences, and obviously the errands aren't going to happen to every family that visits, but the
Yeah.
Alexes probably are. There's always going to be those
Mm-hmm.
magical moments that a cast member is going to look and they're going to make for you. And it changes everything about your trip. And especially the ones like at the resort, when you start to see them day after day, or when you've got that food court that you go to every evening when you get back from the park and you need something to eat, like some chicken tenders and fries, and the same cast members working, like, engage with them. They're all wearing name tags for a reason. We love to call them by name. We'll often talk to them about where they're from because that's printed on their name tags as well. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we've always just said, like, the cast members aren't just there to serve you. Like, I understand overall that is their job,
Mm-hmm.
but treat them with the same respect you would everybody else. Same thing when you walk into the Publixes or, anywhere you go, or the Marriotts if you're staying off property. Because
Yeah.
what you get back is pretty incredible, and we've made just absolute lifelong friends because of it.
Yeah. Well, big shout out to Aaron and Alex. Thank you guys so much.
Yes.
And yeah, for sure, the people in that work in service industries and hospitality industries, they deserve so much, and so much can depend on your attitude too. Like, they want to make this trip magical for you, so if you're nice and you're patient and everything, you are just going to get the absolute best service you've ever had, because that's what they
Yep.
want to do for you.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is those cast members, if you are having an issue, even if you're a jerk about it, they will do what it takes to make it right, but it's probably going to be the minimal, you know?
Right.
Um, but let's go back to an Aaron situation. We very well could have said, we're already here for 5 nights. We've spent a ton of money. I can't believe that you're going to say we can't stay one more night. Like, we could have been
Yeah.
as rude as can be. Instead, we had
Mm-hmm.
conversations. We were as nice as could be. We said, we totally understand. If we can't stay Friday night, that's fine. We thought we would ask. Thank you so much. And there, look what came from that. And we got, lifelong friend out of that. Going back
Mm-hmm.
to the don'ts, one thing I do want to mention, because I
Okay.
feel like this is becoming big on social media, is quit expecting pixie dust,
Mm-hmm.
and quit asking for it. If you're not familiar, pixie dust is just, I honestly don't know if Disney came up with it or if guests did, but pixie dust is the Alex moments. It is the
Mm-hmm.
Aaron moments. But I think what people are confused by is they see these on social, these people that got upgrades, these people that maybe got a free dessert or whatever it may be, and then they think that's going to happen to them, and they go in with these expectations. They go down. It's my daughter's birthday, it's my anniversary, and they're just expecting, what am I going to get back from it?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might be something. You might sit
Yeah.
down and have a birthday button, and you get a free cupcake at the end of the meal. But if you're expecting that free cupcake and it doesn't come because you heard about all this pixie dust and you think you should be getting it, you're going to come back disappointed. And again, that's kind of your
Yeah.
fault. The
Yeah.
other thing that we're seeing a lot is, and I know people have the best intentions in the world, and it's super duper sweet, but people are starting to like leave things in the parks as pixie dust, especially around Walt Disney
Mm-hmm.
World.
Mm-hmm.
Or, randomly walk up to people and offer them something like a gift as pixie dust, which again is super generous. I know they have big hearts and the best intentions. The problem is, if a cast member finds something in a park laying around like that, they are instructed to pick it up and throw it in the garbage. So it's
Mm-hmm.
possible your pixie dust will never be found. In other situations, of course, people can be uncomfortable with being approached or whatever, but I like reserving the pixie dust for what it truly is, which is random acts of kindness pretty much by a cast member during your Disney vacation. So I just had to throw that
Mm-hmm.
one don't in there because I've seen people who have posted on Facebook after their arrival absolutely furious that they didn't get anything extra because they said like it was their daughter's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And from a lot of those posts, you're like, well, you just ruined your whole trip. Why would you want to
Mm-hmm.
do that? So just, set your expectations properly, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing wrong with asking, but they'll do what they can, and then when they can't, you just have to be, you
Yeah,
have to expect that if the answer is no, you got to be okay with it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if a guest is planning to come back, they've had their wonderful magical trip to Disney World, they followed our advice, and now they want to come back. What would your suggestion be? Should they stay at the same hotel that now they love, or should they try checking out a different hotel?
I would check out a different hotel. Disney has so much to offer across all of the properties, from value to deluxe. Of course, if that first time you go is a value and you love it, but the next time you can budget for a moderate, it might be time to move up and kind of check that out. One other thing, if you're on that Disney trip and you're at the last day, you're heading home, and you're like, this was the best time ever. We got to do this again. That's the time to plan. Disney extended their bounce back offers at Walt Disney World into 2025. So basically, if on the day you check out, you have 7 days to contact Disney and book a future trip, and you're going to get a certain bounce back percentage off.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like everything, those are, relegated to certain blocks and certain resorts. So the quicker you can do that, the better. You can have your travel advisor do that as well for you, and go ahead and have your confirmation number for the current one. It's funny. It used to be, this was another pre-COVID thing. You had to book a bounce back offer before you checked out of your room. So there are
Yes.
times, because we would almost book before we were pass holders, we would book every trip before we ended the trip we were on. And I remember one day we checked out, we're driving home. My wife called because again, we weren't smart enough to use a travel advisor at that time. And they were like, I'm sorry, we see that you checked out of the room like 30 minutes ago. This bounce back is not good for you. So we're like, no, but
Oh.
I'm really glad they extended it to that 7 days. But that's the time to
Mm-hmm.
do it because the bounce back offers are really, really good. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's the time. That might be the time to go. We stayed at a value. You know what? If we book now, we can go ahead and switch it up. As much as we loved Pop Century, we really
Mm-hmm.
want to stay at Coronado. We can do a bounce back offer, save a lot. Let's go ahead and try out a different resort this time.
Yeah, maybe because of the savings, you'll pay close to the same thing as your value resort if you bump up to a moderate. But
Exactly.
if I remember correctly, you can help me out. And that you don't have to be specific, right? You can just tell your travel advisor, "Hey, we do want this. We're gonna give you the down payment, and then you can, firm up your dates or whatever later on,
Yeah.
right?"
Yes, yes, of course. And that's the other great thing, about, I mean, the travel advice, and you can do this if you do it yourself, but, a lot of things people don't realize, like if you book a package, it's a $200 deposit, and then you've
Mm-hmm.
got up to 30 days prior to pay that thing off, so when you look at going, oh man, this is a $5,000 vacation, you can say, all right, well, I can secure this for 200, and then I've got whatever, a year from now, to pay off that rest. And you can pay your Disney rooms. You can give your travel advisor gift cards. Disney gift cards can be used
Mm-hmm.
towards putting down that deposit, paying towards that room. We use them all the time. You can go places like some of
Yeah.
the wholesale places.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Costco will have them online. BJ's Wholesale often has them in the actual store. Best
Mm-hmm.
Buy will run digital deals sometimes. So, like,
Oh, okay.
you might be able to get a $200 gift card for $180, just say,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you go, or the red card, if you have a red card, you get 5% off gift cards at Target. So let's just say you spend $180 on a $200 gift card. Well, there's your $200 deposit, but it only cost you $180. The
Mm-hmm.
whole time you lead up to your trip, buy those gift cards when you can. And then especially at that discount, every year that we renew our passes, we do a down payment with gift cards that we've usually purchased at a lesser amount because we're putting down a chunk of money, like $1,500 or something. We're able to get that sometimes for, maybe $1,250, $1,300. So we've already saved money there.
Mm-hmm.
And we do the same thing with a lot of our trips. We go a lot, obviously. But even then, like if I have $30 in cash on me, I go right to Publix. I buy a $30 Disney gift card and I just stick it with our stuff for the next trip. And a lot of times, you show up and you're like, hey, I got some gift cards. The one other thing with gift cards is make sure that you register them on DisneyGiftCard.com. You can not only can you register them, you can combine them for up to $1,000 a card. So if you are buying a $30 here, $100 there, you don't want to show up with all these gift cards. You can combine them into $1,000 card. But the thing that's great about it is if you lose, let's just say you got a $1,000 gift card for your dining or merchandise, and on day one, you lose it. If you didn't register it online, you're out of luck. That's gone.
Yeah.
If you registered it, all you have to do is you could literally go, or you have a spare gift card on you. You go up to a front desk, $15 minimum, you buy another Disney gift card, you register that one, and then you immediately transfer the balance. Every time we get a gift card, we immediately register it because if it goes missing, I already know I've got a dummy gift card in the account that sits in my wallet all the time. As soon as I know that thing's missing, I can go online and I can transfer the balance. So if somebody picks it up and finds it, and you've already transferred the balance, then they don't get to use it. But if you haven't or you never registered it, well, that person just got a $1,000 bonus on their vacation. So definitely one of those do's is register those gift cards.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. I did know you can combine them, but I didn't think about replacing if it's lost. Yes, that's a good.
And it happened. Like another thing we recommend that we love, especially during festival time at Epcot, is they sell little gift card wristlets. And they're wonderful because they're very easily accessible. You don't have to pull out your wallet. We don't use our magic bands to charge back to the room. You certainly could. If you do decide to do that and you have gift cards, you can actually go each night and pay off the balance of your room that day and any charges you made back with your gift cards. So that's something to definitely know. But they're so valuable to have when you're down there, and you can really save a lot when you start either stacking them up or looking for those deals and all. You can end up paying for like whole trips. We use them every single trip that we go, and those wristlets are great, but they can fall off. So that's my one thing with them. As much as we recommend them, as soon as you buy it, register that sucker, because we have lost them, the wristlets specifically in the parks a few times. And then just one other money bonus I will say is do have cash on you. Disney systems sometimes will go down. It happens more often at Epcot, and a lot of those third-party vendors that run some of the merchandise shops and food, especially the food booths during festivals, sometimes they will be at cash only. Sometimes they'll be at gift card only, but you do kind of want an option. So even if it's a small amount of cash, or you at least have the ability to get access to cash, even though a lot of people don't carry cash anymore, you do want it at least in some of those instances. And a lot of times we'll just tip with cash as well when we do the sit-down restaurants. So that's something else you can sometimes keep some of that stuff for.
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. And don't worry if you missed that link. I'll put that in the show notes where you can combine your Disney gift cards. And this is a great time of year. I'm not exactly sure when we'll air this episode, but Black Friday just passed. Christmas is coming up, and there's a lot of sales everywhere. In addition, like you said, at the wholesale places, Costco, BJ, Sam's, you're always going to get that like 10 to 20 bucks off, like 100, 200. But even now, more so with the holidays, you're going to get a bigger discount. So that's a great money saving tip there.
Oh yeah. And ask for them. Like I can tell you right now, anybody that says, what do you want for Christmas? I'm just like, give me a Disney gift card and I'll let you know what I buy with it. That's what I tell Rhonda's parents. I'm like, Disney gift card, and I promise I will spend it on something, and then I will text you what I spent it on so you know. But that's the best way to go, I think.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I feel you gave me some of these pictures, and I don't think we've talked really about any of your photos you shared. Do you want for me to put one up and tell a story about one of
Sure.
these photos or two of these
Yeah.
photos?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Which one do you want to have a story about first? We've got
Well,
I
I
think
think I
this
sent you
is
one of us dressed up at the Grand Flow here, which is actually from this past weekend.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
I really want to hear about that. So,
So we had an opportunity, bucket list item, to dine at Victoria and Albert's at the Grand Floridian. It was. We went Saturday night. It was absolutely incredible. We went with a friend of ours. She was turning 70, and we were able to do the chef's table, which is literally inside the kitchen. It is so of course you got to get all dressed up. And
yeah.
Grand Flow year round actually has this great. If you walk into the lobby, it's on the second floor. So actually the one the monorail comes in on, and right past the gift shop on the right near the elevators, there's a photo spot. And it's got this beautiful background. They usually have Cinderella's glass slipper there as a prop. Right now they've got this gift box, so they'll have things, but a photo pass photographer is almost always there. So we've gotten dressed up a few times to go to somewhere like maybe California Grill or
Hmm.
Narcoossee's, and we always stop
Hmm.
at Grand Flow and get a photo there. So we had to do it this
Nice.
time because we were all dressed up, and it was definitely the most incredible dining experience I've ever had. It is the best meal I've ever had, and I would have to say, just life experiences in general, like it was top five. It's so weird to come out of something like that is very, very expensive and actually feel like it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
we're my wife and I are already talking about possibly we our 20th anniversary is in 2026. We're already like, maybe we should go to Victoria and Albert's. And I didn't know that I'd ever say that because of the cost. You think, how could this
Hmm.
really be worth it? It's worth
Yeah.
every penny. And my wife doesn't want me to say this, but honestly, Disney could charge more for it and it would still be worth it. So I'm hoping that they don't because it's already expensive. But it
Yeah.
was the most incredible experience ever. Like, it's something that you can do, I highly recommend doing it.
Okay. Yeah. I hope one day I'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your time with us today, Jeremy, and providing all those tips and do's, don'ts, your recommendations. We really appreciate that. I'm going to have all the info in the show notes for you. Remember, Jeremy has his Main Street Magic podcast, which you can find.
You can go to mainstmagic.com. You can find everything there. Of course, we are available on all of the major podcast feeds, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, all of those. And then, yeah, you can catch us on social pretty much everywhere at Main ST Magic, except for TikTok, where MSM Podcast, because I just started it a year ago and that's all I could secure. So, but that's where you can find us.
Well, great. Thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you so much. I love this that you started. This is so cool. I can't wait to continue to see this progress and all the awesome guests and creators and stuff you're going to have on. So, congratulations again.
Oh, thank you so much. And I wish you all the fun and all the best in your first trip to Disneyland in April. I think you'll really
Thank
enjoy it.
I may hit you up for a few tips.
Please do. Please do.
Perfect.
Once again, I'm Stacey, your Disney Hotel lady. Find us also on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Join the discussion group on Facebook. Subscribe here on YouTube so you don't miss out on our next creator interview. And don't forget DisneyHotelLady.com for all the latest reviews and rankings of Disney area hotels. Coming to you from me, Stacey, your Disney Hotel Lady. Thanks for watching.